Hello there ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paul TX141 Walsh and welcome to an all new World of Warships gameplay. In this episode I'll be sailing out in the Tier VII Japanese torpedo-boat destroyer known as the Akatsuki in a Tier VIII Standard Battle on the map Northern Lights. As I analyse the gameplay, I'd like to draw your attention to one main area for discussion, that is avoiding attention. Throughout the battle I'll be doing my utmost to avoid being spotted. When I am spotted I will aim to avoid drawing attention to my ship. With the forward covered, let's get into the gameplay. As we load into the match and look at the team sheets, the one thing that comes to my mind is the fact that this is a carrier game. And so because of that, I cannot make any outright plans in terms of what I'm going to do until I know where the enemy carrier is going to spawn in. Carriers spawn in symmetrically to one another, and I can see that our Ryujo has spawned in Bravo 7, so I'd expect the enemy Ark Royal to have spawned in India 7. Now this means I cannot go charging forward with the 38 knots top speed of the Akatsuki. To do so into grid squares Echo 7 and Echo 8 would be suicidal for my health pool because I'd be putting myself at the whim of the support of my own AA, potentially the AA of our Le Terrible, and also any support that the friendly planes from my Ryujo will offer in terms of dropping a fighter over me. Instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to gradually make my way towards Echo 7, Echo 8, but hold back a little bit and think about what is going to happen when I see the enemy aircraft, because I'm expecting to see some rocket planes before I can get to Echo 7 or Echo 8. And also I'm going to use the intelligence offered to me by our friendly Ryujo in order to see what the enemy team's doing down this side. Now in going forward here, one thing I have to keep in mind is the long range AA of the Akatsuki and the fact that I'm facing a carrier that's one tier lower, which means they're going to be more susceptible to our damage per second and that of our allies compared to a carrier that's one tier higher. The enemy Ark Royal's rocket planes have been spotted on call, and we can see that our Ryujo's fighter is actually going to cling onto the back of the rocket planes and deal some damage. And now I want to discourage the Ark Royal from ever coming after me ever again. So I've turned on my AA here and set the priority sector, but note I'm sailing towards our friendly Warspite and our New Orleans, and I'm well within their long range AA circles. And as the Ark Royal comes charging on here, watch how their plane squadron is going to fall apart in front of us. Now I'm going to take some damage here from the rockets, and it's 1,500 HP, which I'm not too worried about trading away, because in return, pretty much the entirety of that rocket fighter squadron has been shot down. Now put yourself in the shoes of the carrier player at this point. You've just lost the entirety of a rocket plane squadron right at the start of the game, and what you've noticed is that the destroyer you went to hunt is being smart in using their AA plus the supporting AA of friendlies in order to blunt your attacks. Are you going to go back there for a second strike? Common sense would say probably not, and instead you're going to turn your attention elsewhere, particularly seeing as this is a game with 4 destroyers aside. There must be at least one other destroyer out there who's not got AA support. And if we look at the minimap right now, we can see that clearly. From our perspective in Echo 1, we have our friendly mass, who is out on their own and not covered by AA, and the AA of the mass is quite short range from what I recall. Now unfortunately here I'm going to make a silly mistake of beaching the ship, but I'm going to use this time as a breather to understand what's going on the minimap. And thanks to the intelligence I've been given so far by my teammates, I can see that our New Orleans is taking on the De Grassa down the 9-10 line, and it looks as though the capital ship of the enemy team, the Tier 8 British battleship the Monarch, is also going for the 9-10 line. So I think that my fight is going to be down that flank. I will need to help the New Orleans secure that flank, because behind the New Orleans there's only one other ship on our team, and that's our Ryujo, and we need our carrier to make it the distance in this game, or at least survive as long as possible, because in carrier games, carriers can do a huge amount of damage over time. Looking at our Le Terrible, meanwhile, as I'm making my way down the 9-10 line here to support the New Orleans, what I can see is that our Le Terrible is being able to just move across Echo 7, Echo 8 without any spotting or any concern whatsoever in terms of enemy destroyers. This means that the enemy destroyers are either going to be ahead of my own ship, but then again they wouldn't be now because the Ryujo on our team would have spotted them, so that must mean the other Akatsuki on the enemy team is still roughly where it was last spotted, so goal 5, and the other 2 enemy destroyers must be somewhere on the 1 to 4 lines. This gives me the opportunity to at least play 1 versus 1 against the enemy Akatsuki down the 9-10 line, or alternatively turn it into a 2 versus 1, while our Le Terrible making their way over here by the looks of things. Now I'm going to start using the concealment of my ship and the fact I do not want to be spotted to my advantage in terms of deploying my torpedoes. I'm waiting a little bit to see and confirm that the Monarch is definitely pushing down this way. I don't want to throw my torpedoes down just beyond their maximum range of 10 kilometers to find that the Monarch is going to turn away and turn out of the range of my torpedoes. We can see that they're now within 9.5 kilometers, and according to the minimap, their bearing is such that they are gradually angled towards heading northwards, up into the northeastern corner of the map. So it's time to deploy the torpedoes. They're going to sail into the range of them as a minimum. In the meantime, I'm laying down a smoke screen and using my speed boost to widen the length of the smoke screen. And the reason for this is why I want to give my New Orleans the opportunity to disengage. I'm not going to use the smoke to shoot my guns, seeing as if I do, then I'm going to be essentially revealing my position, but on top of that I'm purely relying on my friendly Ryujo or my friendly Le Terrible to spot for me. And if the Le Terrible decides to go into my smoke and the Ryujo pulls their planes back, nobody's doing any spotting and no one's the wiser. The torpedoes are now 3/4 of the way there, and what we can see is they seem to be relatively on target, with at least one of them going to hit the Monarch by the looks of things. And in the meantime, it would appear that we've got two enemy battleships down here, so the Monarch and the Bayern, the Tier 6 German battleship, we've got the Degrasser, and we've got the enemy Akatsuki. Our opponents are now confirmed to us, and this is essentially a 4 versus 4 situation, where on our team it's 2 destroyers, a heavy cruiser and a carrier versus the 4 ahead. But here note that the enemy Akatsuki is actually coming forward, and I'm starting to get ready to shoot my guns, because our Le Terrible has constantly been shooting at the enemy ships and has essentially attracted all of the enemy's attention. I'm confident I'm not going to get shot at here, and so I'm opening up on the Akatsuki, trying to encourage them to deploy their smokescreen to preserve the rest of their health. And sure enough, with the lethality of our HE Alpha, 2,150 per shell, we're able to encourage Akatsuki to go to smoke. And note that by deploying their smoke, what they've done is they've actually extended a significant smoke screen in which I'm now throwing all of my torpedoes down. Now this serves a dual purpose. One, because the smoke screen's there, what it does, it enables me to disengage completely from the Akatsuki, who may have tried to keep coming forward. Especially with our Le Terrible now falling, and I haven't been shot at yet, so I stay concealed and I'm not drawing any attention to myself. But also, I'm expecting that smoke screen to act as a magnet for the enemy ships to move towards in order to conceal their positions. And so any ships that go in there are going to get a nasty surprise when they see 9 torpedoes come charging through the mix. And sure enough, the enemy Akatsuki is about to fall. And on top of that, the enemy Degrasser takes a torpedo. Now remember, they went into that smoke screen with roughly 21,000 HP. And with our torpedoes having a maximum damage potential of 17,233 each, and the fact that in the top right corner of your screen right now, we're gradually ticking up in terms of damage, meaning the flooding we've set on them is sticking, they're going to lose a huge amount of HP, if not flood outright. And in return, what we've done is we now blunted the enemy's ability to spot us, because the only thing that was going to spot us, if it had concealment expert on their captain, would have been the enemy Akatsuki. And the enemy carrier's not playing down here because we discouraged them from coming down this way in the first principle of this match. So now I've got a lot of freedom to operate. Unfortunately, our New Orleans has fallen, however, which means I'm now alone with the support of the carrier, but I'm alone in terms of ship positioning versus 3 enemy ships here. Albeit it looks as though the enemy Monarch does not want to be a part of this at all, as they've already disengaged. And so now it's a 2 versus 1 in terms of ship on ship, but we do have our friendly Ryujo providing constant support, and credit to them, they do a fantastic job here. Now the set of torpedoes I've thrown down are going to completely miss their mark, because I assumed the Bayern would carry on a straight line. But what I'm now noticing is, because I noticed earlier in the team sheets that the enemy Bayern and Fuso are in a squad. Now we can see that the enemy Fuso seems to be making their way up the 8 line, whereas the enemy Bayern seems to be making their way along the 9 line and wants to use the passage between the land masses to move into grid square Echo 8. And by sticking so close to the land masses right now, this pretty much confirms to me that they're going to be linking up their friendly ship, and so I'm aiming my torpedoes to stop them from doing so. I want to deal maximum damage here by catching them as they're trying to create the link up. I'm keeping an eye on the Degrasser here, and watch how I'm going to use my speed boost in order to make sure I'm not spotted. I'm deploying it as soon as it's ready, and I'm immediately sailing straight away from the Degrasser here, just making sure they don't see my ship. Because if I was spotted there, that would tell the Bayern that I had my broadside to them, and therefore they would assume that I've thrown torpedoes towards them and would need to turn in instantly. But now by pulling back further and further, the enemy are none the wiser, but because I've got my smoke available and the Degrasser's on such low health, and the HE Alpha strike potential of the Akatsuki's 127mm barrels is so strong against cruisers as well as destroyers, I can work with the friendly Ryujo in order to finish off the Degrasser, and here deal with 2 ships at exactly the same time. We get a nice set of torpedoes in on the Bayern, we're about to finish off the Degrasser by the looks of things, it's all working very well. That's the Degrasser eliminated, and with the Bayern still flooding because they put out a fire earlier on, it looks as though we're going to pick up a double strike. So what next? Well, we take a breather at this point, and what we think about is, right, where can we now deploy our ship most effectively? Some would say, why not go down the 9-10 line? Well, in my opinion, this is not the most important thing to do right now. Instead, we need to keep an eye on the Fuso, because they were hoping to link up with the Bayern. Now, let's think of it from the group's perspective. If you're the Bayern and the Fuso player, what are you going to be thinking right now? You've just lost one battleship completely to a destroyer you never saw. Are you going to want to push between the land masses and cut over to the 9-10 line? Probably not, especially what if the Ryujo also constantly tossing planes in your direction. Are you going to want to pull back to your base, knowing that by the looks of things the enemy team has pushed down the 5-6 line, predominantly the 5 line, and is cutting into your base? Probably not, because then you're going to be caught off guard. So instead you're probably going to start continually flanking in a counterclockwise direction towards your opponent's base. And this means that from my perspective, I've now got an opportunity to take the Fuso out of the game completely, because they're going to want to make a beeline for the objective. And in the meantime, they're constantly being harassed by a friendly Ryujo, and they'll want to avoid exposing their broadside to the likes of Warspite and Sinop, very powerful ships with large caliber guns. And I've set those torpedoes quite tight here because I'm getting the feeling that the Fuso's not going to make any sudden changes in direction. They may be thinking that I'm still making my way down the 9-10 line, and with the torpedoes gradually making their way in, it looks as though this is going to be another devastating strike. With our 4th kill now in the bag, this game seems to be won. However, we cannot just assume it's going to be won yet, because we still have 3 enemy destroyers who are unaccounted for. We know that the enemy Akatsuki, the other one, was last spotted in Gulf 3, but that was a long time ago, and that the enemy Bleachoviska was last spotted in Hotel 4, but that was a long time ago. The enemy Ashashio has not been spotted at all this game. We still have an enemy carrier to deal with, and we still have the Monarch, who seems to be holding a presence in Grid Square Hotel 8, and trying to defend against our ships pushing into the enemy base. At the same time, let's look at the composition of our team. We're predominantly battleships now. Battleships have big caliber guns, a lot of secondaries, a lot of armour, but they're very clumsy ships and are prone to be eliminated by destroyers, or their concealment and the power of torpedoes. We've shown that from our own perspective, having nailed 2 battleships back to back. So in return, we have to assume that the destroyer threat is still very real, and we now need to work to mitigate it. So what am I going to do? Well, again, I'm going to use the principle of the fact I do not want to be seen. For now, I'm just making my way down the 7 line towards the enemy base. I'm looking at the enemy Monarch, thinking to myself, can I get it out of the game, or is it going to be eliminated by my teammates first? I'm in 2 minds. Do I go for the Monarch and potentially the enemy Ark Royal, who seems to be operating out of Grid Square India 9 or Juliet 9, or do I make my way over towards the 1-4 lines and try to take out the enemy destroyers? And shortly enough, we see that the Monarch seems to almost be deleted of the rest of its health from one of our battleships, so we don't have to worry about them as they're taken out by our Sinop. The Ark Royal is spotted by our friendly carrier, and we can assume that our battleships will want to focus it. So there's no need to go after the carrier, that's a waste of time. But what we can see in the distance as we look towards the southwest is that a number of smoke screens are starting to go up. And what this suggests to me is that the enemy destroyers are quietly confident in their ability to utilise smoke, torpedoes, and gunpowder within smoke in order to gradually whittle down our battleships. As we see a number of deep water torpedoes gradually make their way towards our friendly barn and going to be taking them out. Our Akatsuki spots into the enemy Akatsuki, and the 2 are going to trade shells, with the enemy Akatsuki falling here to the guns of our Warspite. That means the cap's reset, and now we're down to 2 enemy destroyers remaining, plus the Ark Royal. But as said previously, the enemy Ark Royal is being spotted right now, and I'll let our battleships take care of that. I want to get those 2 destroyers out of the game, and I can see a big smoke screens now going up in roughly Grid Square Gulf 5, and it looks as though those 2 destroyers are very confident that they can use that smoke plus the planes of their friendly Ark Royal in order to just dish out continual damage, set fires, throw more torpedoes, and just be an absolute nuisance to our team. So how am I going to approach this? Well, I'm not going to make a beeline there, and I want to do a quick test on these 2 destroyers. Do they suffer from target fixation? What I mean by that is, once they're in their smoke and trying to toss shells at our friendly Sinop, as they're doing right now, do they just keep doing that and not worry about what else is being spotted? To run the test, I can see that enemy dive bombers are coming in. I'm going to be switching on, or carpet bombers I should say, I'm going to be switching on my long distance AA on them to help my teammates out, but also see if I have shells thrown my way, because I'm making a beeline right now towards that smoke screen. And what we quickly see is that none of the fire from that smoke is heading in my direction. These enemy destroyers appear to me to be target fixated, which means I can be aggressive in going after the smoke screen. And remember, because they're both in the smoke, if I toss shells in there right now, where the enemy planes haven't pulled back, I'm not going to be spotted, and so I can pick up some potential damage here and also try to get them to come out of their smoke, make it uncomfortable for them, because I'm gradually making my way counterclockwise to the northern side of their smoke screen, and while the rest of my team gradually making their way down the eastern side of the smoke, I'm setting up a 90-degree crossfire. And I'll keep making my way in, what with the speed of the Akatsuki working to my advantage, and I'm throwing down torpedoes here because these will be coming in at roughly a 70-degree angle to the main part of the remaining fleet on my team, and this makes it a very uncomfortable smoke to sit in, because if they continue to sit there, it's very likely they're going to be broadside to my torpedoes and receive them. Alternatively, they've got to leave the smoke and I'll reveal those ships for my teammates. Let's find out what happens then. What is shells still coming out of the smoke screen on a continual basis? The torpedoes are almost there. And let's see what the fireworks are. That's another destroyer eliminated, that's the Ashashio. And now, just one destroyer remains in the form of the Bleacher Visca. Can we make it a 6th kill? And it would appear our survey says yes. Time for the post-game stats. With the battle over, we can see that our battle performance amounted to a total damage output of 125,088 HP. We also picked up the following achievements: 2 devastating strikes, one against the Bayern and one against the Fuso, a Confederate, a double strike against the De Grassa and the Bayern, and also the one that everybody wants, the Kraken Unleashed. Moving on to the team scores, we can see that we placed top of our team in terms of base experience earned with 2,138 XP. Whilst it took some time for us to determine our role for this match, we eventually identified the need to support our friendly carrier, the Ryujo, in managing the eastern flank, particularly the 910 line, which the enemy team invested a significant number of resources in attempting to push. To shut down the enemy's push, we used the combination of our concealment and lethal alpha strike potential in both the Akatsuki's torpedoes and guns. With our guns, we managed to force the enemy Akatsuki to seek refuge in the comfort of a smokescreen, whilst with our torpedoes we managed to cripple, if not outright destroy, the larger enemy aggressors in the form of the De Grassa and Bayern. In the end, we made the cost of pushing the eastern flank so high to the enemy team that this helped to discourage their Monarch from returning to the flank. Upon securing the flank, we used the intelligence provided by our Ryujo to eliminate the enemy Fuso, who was potentially looking to cut through the centre-east flank towards our base. Again, this was achieved through utilising the lethality of Akatsuki's torpedoes. We then helped to wrap up the game by hunting the remaining enemy destroyers who sought comfort in an extended smokescreen, striking from a different position from the rest of our team in order to set up a crossfire. As for our detailed report, we should note that whilst most of our damage was achieved using our torpedoes, as would be expected for a torpedo-boat destroyer, this should not detract from the value of using our guns against the right targets at the right time, particularly HE against the enemy destroyers. And finally, coming on to credits and experience earned, we can see that after additions and deductions, we took away 302,482 silver credits and 14,466 commander experience. To conclude, when sailing a destroyer, one of your most valuable assets is your concealment. Not just in terms of your ability to keep larger ships spotted without being seen in return, but also with respect to your ability to strike at critical moments where the enemy's attention is focused elsewhere. By being patient and observant of where the enemy's attention is focused, you can maximise the lethality of your torpedoes and even bring your guns to bear, delivering sudden strikes to the enemy fleet. This not only serves to reduce the threat of the enemy team, but also reduces the enemy's confidence over time, as their captains will begin to dread the lethal ninja that lies ahead. With that, I've been TX141. If you've enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, comment or subscribe for future World of Warships videos on my channel. Alas, that is all I've got time for today, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, as always, I bid you fair winds and following seas.